Hi, my name is Dean Wolfe, and I'm going to review an album today. This is an album from Yes, of course, called Relayer, and it was made in, it was released in 1974. It has 3 songs. Close to the Edge has a very similar layout. You've got 3 songs. You've got side 1, which is a 20-minute song, and then you've got side 2, which has 2, basically, they split the side pretty much in half. And it was their first album that they did a long song, a 20-minute song. After that album, they did Topographic Oceans, which was 4 20-minute songs. And then came this one, and they had another long song. So they had a continuing streak of long songs, which is pretty incredible. The mind-blowing factor about Relayer was the second track, Sound Chaser, and which is the first on side 2. And it's so jazzy and so explosively jazzy and fusiony. It really, when I first heard it, my mind was blown. I just could not believe this was Yes, what I was hearing. It was incredible. Track 1, which is Gates of Delirium, which is just one of Yes's great works. The lineup of the group has a large effect on this. It was Patrick Moraz who joined Yes because Rick Wakeman quit after Topographic Oceans. So I think Steve Howe on this album has a little more elbow room, and you can hear it. And I, for example, the solo on Sound Chaser, track number 2, there's a long guitar solo. I will say, as far as the tracking of these 2 albums, let's look at Closely Edge, for example. You start off with Closely Edge, track 1. Then you go to side 2, and it's End You and I. Now, End You and I is a very kind of slow, passionate song, isn't it, right? And then you've got Siberian Khatru, which is really upbeat and exciting and dynamic. So you've got here, you've got the one track, side 1, which is a long track, kind of like Closely Edge, right? And then you've got side 2, and it starts off with a fast song instead of going to a slow song. I think that this album would have benefited tremendously if they had put To Be Over followed by Sound Chaser. I think they should have ended Relayer with a bang. I've already decided. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10. And I was trying to figure out why can't I give it a 10 out of 10? And it's sort of an intangible reason. I couldn't figure out what it was. But actually, I think when I considered about Closely Edge, the sequencing of the tracks, I think that may have been it. Okay, so let's talk about track 1, the Gates of Delirium. It was the only song, Gates of Delirium, that I'm concerned sometimes about my mother upstairs, because it has this section where there's kind of a war going on, and there's drills, and there's banging, and there's like explosions sounding throughout the music, and it's super loud. I think that's the only time in history that I'd actually wondered, I wonder if this is bothering somebody upstairs. You kind of want your mom to like some of your music, right? So let's talk a little about side 1. It starts off with the Harmonics, which is just almost like to me it sounds like the back and forth of a clock in a way. And then again too, this is the interesting thing about something like that. Chris Squire's bass playing he sounds like a dinosaur, and dinosaur is used in a negative connotation, like dinosaur band or whatever. I would say yes for a dinosaur in the positive connotation, as in, especially that tune. They sounded like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, Chris Squire moving forward there. And he's so locked in with Alan White, you know. John Anderson, his vocals are very consistent throughout his entire career, as far as I'm concerned. It's like he's just constantly great. He's just constantly perfect. He's like David Bowie. Apparently, David Bowie could go just sing a track in one take. And there's lots of big singers who could do that, you know, with amazing voices. It just seems they're just so gifted. You could say he's an incredible professional. Let's just say that. So that's John Anderson. He's singing. He's got some more grit in his voice because the Gates of Delirium is a bit of a more a battle going on. There's more power struggling, anger, and again, which is unusual for Yes. You'd think Yes are more, mystical lyrics and poems set to music. They're more ethereal, let's just say. By the way, don't you just love this artwork? I mean, again, I've said it before, Yes has another member who doesn't play a single instrument, and that is Roger Dean. He is completely essential to the whole feel of what Yes is. I cannot imagine Yes without Roger Dean. So Gates of Delirium is a long song. If you're going to compare it to all the other songs that Yes did that were at that point 20-minute long songs, really there's no comparing. Close to the Edge has a total uniqueness to it as the song, 20-minute song, Close to the Edge. And then they had after that Topographic Oceans, which I think, even though they're 4 songs, they're a constant thread. So you have to look at them as a single unit, a 4-part suite. And then Relayer came along, and again, it's totally fresh, totally new. Now, in part, you can give that credit to the new keyboardist, Patrick Moraz. Perhaps more aggressive input from Patrick Moraz because of his jazzy stuff. For example, the beginning of Sound Chaser, that is something that he came up with, I read, in a rehearsal. He just started playing and Chris Squire and all the guys kind of liked that and grabbed onto that. So it's kind of great that Patrick Moraz right off the bat was compositionally part of the band. You know, he wasn't just play this for us here, fill in this part. Kind of a shame he was only there for such a short time. The thing about Sound Chaser is you've got the most incredible lock between the musicians, and it's not just White and Squire. There's also Howe. There's parts where Howe and Chris Squire were all doing the same thing. So there's all kinds. I'm using my finger because I don't have a pick here. But anyways, it's really cool to hear Chris Squire playing that and Steve Howe playing that at the same time, because it's not very often you hear Steve and Chris unite and play a part together. It's really rare, actually. Usually what happens with Yes is you've got Chris Squire doing this, and then Steve Howe does this, and then the keyboardist plays something like this, and they all somehow meld really well. It's just part of what they do. So now let's talk a little about track 3, which is the slower tune, and To Be Over. It has lovely slide and pedal steel guitar work. It's very underrated, I think it belongs in the category of And You and I, because you could put And You and I and To Be Over together, and you can see that there are some parallels to how they're structured, but it's all very slower tempoed, It's I mean, even the lyrics, We go sailing down the calming streams, drifting endlessly by the bridge, to be over. We will see to be over. I just love that image, the imagery, and that's totally how the song feels too. And You and I also starts off very quietly and contemplative music, but then it picks up, and it's kind of a deep passion. It's not a fast song, but it's a deeper, slower, reaching song. It's just sort of reaching for the sky, It's just like, oh yeah, that was the other point I wanted to make. Steve Howe is kind of like the Eddie Van Halen, of those days, in a sense that all the guitarists, lots of guitarists, would go buy a Yes album because they love Steve Howe. I would be one of those. He's not a showy guitarist, he's not. It's not about being the fastest. Totally an artistry, a total integrity. You really want to hear this guitarist of great integrity. You want to hear what is he pursuing? What is he trying to do with guitar? What limits is he trying to push? That's why we listen to Steve Howe. As it was, since To Be Over is the end of the album, it is sort of nice how it's a kind of a sun-setting song. It just sort of has that feeling of you've had a wonderful day, you've had a beautiful time, and you're just relaxing, and the evening's coming. I did want to comment on Alan White. He's also, I've said before that he was amazing on Topographic Oceans. Perhaps one of his best works was Topographic Oceans, and that was when he was brand new in the band as well. Imagine joining a band and your first album is going to be a double album with 4 20-minute songs. But Alan White, he does shine on this album, on Relayer. The way I was trying to think how to describe him, and I think one way of describing Alan White was sort of like someone who's riding a horse, and he's rounding up the cattle, He's got these little it's like he's corralling, he's corralling the band. There is one underappreciated aspect of Yes, and that's their vocals. And Relayer is really an exceptional example of the amazing vocal unity here, the 3-part harmonies they get going, especially in Sound Chaser. You know, cha 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 cha, just so unique, so distinct, so Yes. And you can't imagine Yes as an instrumental band. One of the mind-blowing aspects of Sound Chaser was when there was a tempo change. When it went, they sort of cut the time in half. At first they were doing the opposite. They were doubling the time, and they were playing like they were on 78 speed on a record player. If you know what 78 means, you know what I mean. Basically, it's like speeding up a tape deck or whatever. That's my review. Again, 9.5 out of 10. I think just because of the sequencing. Anyways, that's my thoughts. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with me? What score do you give the album? I'd love to know. Leave a comment below. And you know, the comment section is all for leaving comments, and I will react to your comments, and others will react to your comments. Let's keep that community going down there below the video. That's a great spot. That's one of the best things about YouTube, frankly. Spiraling Out, Dean. Make sure you leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed my video, or didn't. Thumbs down if you didn't. And subscribe if you haven't. And Spiraling Out, it's Dean. Talk to you later.